Yes, hello everyone. Welcome back to another weekend review show here on Cluiche. I missed the last week. I was at Camogie Championship the Gaeltacht down in Rathcarn, County Meath, but I am back for another weekend review show and in good time as well. Joined here by Liam White and Matthew Hurley, also known as the Gaelic Statsman. Matthew, how's the head? You had quite a weekend, I imagine, there. Cork winning the Munster Championship for the first time since 2018. Say you're delighted with that.
Absolutely thrilled, yeah. Thanks for having me on again, lads. It was a good win now last night, but there's always the fear that Limerick could come back to bite us in July. But look, enjoy the moment now. Like, I see the clips of the players singing Killa in the dressing room as well, and it was just brilliant to see. I see the photos of SARS on SARS' Instagram page as well of Daniel Hogan, Colin McCarthy, Jack O'Connor joining the boss himself and Pat Ryan as well, which was a nice touch. It was just a brilliant weekend overall for Cork. I obviously wasn't at the game. I was at the minor football game for Cork at the weekend where we actually lost, but the lads showed a very good performance, to be fair, against a very good, a very physical, I would say, Tyrone side. But yeah, that was a good win over Limerick. Fantastic. And yeah, it sets us up very, very nicely for later on the summer now. And Limerick, there was a lot of social media commentary, including our good friend Dan Casey on Twitter.
I was going to say, you're being very, how could I put this? You're being very humble. Dan, on the other hand, was coming out swinging. The minute that game was finished, I seen his post and I was like, I could just already tell. I was like, the comments are just going to be like Limerick fans just being like, because how quick it was up after the game. And I think I seen it was like an hour that it had been up and it was like 77 comments or something already. And I was like, oh, it's kicking off. Like, and knowing lads, let's be honest, they're definitely going to meet down the line for sure. Guys, if you're new to the pod, the ticket down below there at the bottom will tell you how the pod works. Join in the discussion. Throw in what was your personal highlight of the weekend. If you have any questions for me or any of the lads, drop them in the comments below as well. Brian has led the charge with the comments. He says one directed to me and one directed to you, Matthew. He says the man is back. Missed you last week. I missed you too, Brian. I was, as I said, I come out as Pella Gaeltacht, so I couldn't get the time to do it. But he also says this to you, Matthew. Many congratulations to Matthew Hurley. Hope you've managed to get your voice back and enjoyed the celebrations. Hope you didn't go too hard. Yeah, we are going to dive right in with that game. It was absolutely sensational. The Munster Senior Hurling Championship Final of 2025. Cork 130, Limerick 227. After extra time, Cork win on penalties. And this was in Limerick's backyard in the Gaelic grounds. Matthew, where does this rank for you in Munster Hurling Final terms?
Funnily enough, I would say in terms of excitement, very, very high. But in terms of quality, I would say still, I'd say around 4 or 5 maybe. I think Clare and Limerick in 2022 was probably the top one. You have to call a spade there. Like, trying to think of other Munster finals down through the years, there is bound to be very good Munster final, even the ones with John Milan for Waterford. There was those kind of finals. It wasn't the best in terms of quality between these two sides, but in terms of excitement, it was absolutely incredible. Like, extra time was needed to separate the two of them. And yeah, there was some like, when you look at the amount of shots, well, I think 104 shots between both sides across 90 minutes, which was absolutely brilliant. Brilliant entertainment across the board, in fairness. And yeah, it was just an outstanding game of on hurling. But what I will say, I don't know, did you notice the commentary team of Marty Morrissey and Brendan Cummins? To me, they didn't seem that excited by the Munster final. I don't know, was it just me, but it just, you know, they were very, very low in tone and things like that. They weren't screaming at the top of their voice and things like that either. So yeah, maybe there was that. But in terms of like the ending and the penalty shootout and the win for Cork as well, and yeah, the fans streaming onto the pitch, it was absolutely incredible in that sense. But yeah, it was a really good Munster final and All-Ireland semi-final now for this Cork team against probably either Galway or Tipperary, which I'm very much looking forward to. I think I'll be able to get tickets for Croke Park, surely. But we'll see how it all plays out. But yeah, it's a brilliant win for this Cork hurling team, and they haven't done the treble. I think 1502 said this on Twitter since 1970. This could be the year. We'll have to see what happens. But yeah, very, very optimistic about the year now. And what a win! I didn't expect it during the week, but the players proved us all wrong.
Yeah, and how much does it mean to Cork?
It's a big one considering that they haven't won a Munster title in 7 years. The fact that they stopped Limerick's 7 in a row bid as well, which was outstanding. I think it does rank very, very high in terms of Munster wins, because I remember the last one actually in 2018. There didn't seem to be that much celebration because we're facing a Clare team that themselves are probably new to that kind of spectrum of Munster finals, same as 2017 as well against Clare. Funnily enough, as well, we kind of were meeting in so many finals, whereas Cork actually didn't get to a Munster final since 2018, I think it is. This final anyway. So it was a big occasion for the team, for the players, and to shut everybody up as well in the media, because the players would have felt that obviously losing by 16 points was a big defeat to take, and a lot of people were very critical, including ourselves, saying shooting was wrong, puck outs was wrong, and you look at the injuries as well. So Niall O'Leary wasn't fully fit, Rob Downey wasn't fully fit, Decky Dawson wasn't available either. Players weren't moving to their max speed either, but players came in, like Damien Callahan came in, did a stellar job. Dermot Healy in his first championship start as well. Hard to believe, but he was, and he performed brilliant in the Munster final. All across the pitch, very good performances from each and every one of them, and it ranks very highly considering we stopped Limerick's run, and we've won a Munster title as well as a league title this year for the first time since 1972. It's brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. And then throwing this over to you, Liam. Matthew touched on it there. The previous defeat that Cork had against Limerick only 3 weeks prior. How did they turn it around so quickly? We were saying that the rivalry between the two counties, it was so obvious that Cork had the capabilities to beat Limerick based off the fact that they had beaten them in the last season twice. But that it was very, very hard to see how they were going to be able to turn it around so quickly just 3 weeks after such a bad beating. But my God, they really, really brought something different to the table this time. What was it for you?
I think just an absolute hunger and ravenous desire to not even just to right the wrongs, but to win a championship and to prove that if there is a team that is to stop Limerick, it is this Cork team. Like a lot of us fancied Cork to do something this year, and listen, I agree with you. I think later down the line, we're going to get a Cork Limerick All-Ireland final out of it, just given the way the draw is now. I absolutely think we'll be getting a Cork Limerick final. But just the last day,
stopping either of them. I think that will be.
I think the best bet at the moment is probably Tipperary. Maybe they could beat Cork, but at the same time, we've seen what Cork have done to Tipperary twice this year, and what we did it to them last year as well. So, and the form now after today that Cork is going to possibly go on, I don't see even Tipperary stopping them this year anyway. Could be a chance to them over the next number of years, but just their decision making, their reading of the game, and you can always tell a lot about a game in about the first 2-3 minutes, or even the first 5. The last day after 5 minutes, you knew it was going to be a beatdown. You knew Limerick were going to absolutely hockey Cork that day. Whereas this time, like whatever about, say, Cork leading by 3 points to no score, their hunger was there, their desire was there. Like Tim O'Mahony, even from the throw-in, was getting stuck into Will O'Donoghue and was pulling the ball on the ground. Like there was an absolute ravenous desire to get on the ball. They were stopping the influence. Like Cian Lynch was still getting on the ball, but his influence was much less than what it was the last day. Kyle Hayes wasn't able to. He was sweeping up well, but he wasn't able to even dictate and get the ball into the forward line as well as he could. Like Damien Cahalan at times, the sweeping he did and the reading he did at times for a guy who's been heavily criticised a lot over the years for Cork was exceptional, to be honest with you. And I mean, we were all chatting yesterday, and even Matthew was like, Jesus, when Cahalan is scoring, like it might be our day. When a cornerback is scoring a point like he did, it's your day. But no, just their absolute hunger, and I suppose they would have wanted to right the wrong of the last time as well, because that wasn't the Cork that we've seen over the last 2 years in the Gaelic grounds a couple of weeks ago. Whereas yesterday it was, they raised their level 110%, to be honest with you. And I mean, their forwards were moving better. Brian Hayes looked so much better yesterday than he did a couple of weeks ago. Shane Barrett, I think bringing Darragh Fitzgibbon back to midfield as well was a massive, massive decision. I've been singing, I'd said at the start of the year, I thought that Dermot Healy would be the young hurler of the year. He probably won't get it now, but just watching him yesterday, I was watching him going, this is why I like him. He was direct. He set up the first score for Horgan. He got 3 points in the end from play. Like he was He was tracking back as well, trying to feed the ball into the forward line too. He was really, really good. So no, just that there was just a hunger about Cork that just we did not see, and we didn't even see against Waterford either, but it was certainly there yesterday, and proof is in the pudding with the result.
Absolutely. And I firmly believe this isn't going to be the last that we see these two playing against each other in the rest of the season. The fact that now they're on different sides of the draw, I don't see anybody stopping either of them. I think they will meet in an All-Ireland final. Massive congratulations to Cork on what is an incredible victory, an incredible Munster final win, especially for the first time in 7 years, and especially after the beating they took just 3 weeks ago against the same opposition in the same ground. They came back with a point to prove. They stated their claim in the first 20 minutes. They weren't pulling out of any tackles. They were absolutely getting stuck into Limerick all over the field. They held their nerve. I thought in the second half, I thought that with the win, Limerick might have a field day with Burns and Hayes from distance with that win, but Cork in the second half were superb. And then the late equaliser from Horgan, and then Darragh Fitzgibbon held his nerve in extra time to send it to penalties. It was tit for tat. Cork had an answer for everything Limerick threw at them. And I firmly believe now, 1-1, they're going to meet each other in an All-Ireland final in what could also serve as a tiebreaker between the two teams. I don't think anybody can stop them, but let's see how it plays out. Massive congratulations to Cork on an incredible Munster final victory. We have a few comments in here. Sean O'Malley says the fact that Cork won without Jerry Millerick and Declan Dalton, whereas Limerick had a full squad. Brian says our game should not be decided on penalties. Could you imagine the buzz and crack if there was a replay? Get your thoughts on that, lads. Matthew, speaking from a Cork point of view, obviously you came out the right side of the result. What do you think about penalties? Would you want it to be decided on penalties, or would you prefer if Cork had won this after a replay?
Well, I'd say no, that I'd rather penalties because we won.
Yeah, that's why I phrased that as Cork winning after a replay, because obviously if it's going to a replay, it would be all up in the air.
But the thing is, I will point out this, and a lot of Limerick fans were complaining about penalties and this should be decided in a game. But I actually dug out one of my posts. Geez, it's a long time since this post. I think it was around October 2023. Tom Morrissey, I remember this. Tom Morrissey, the Limerick wing forward, had a good game himself yesterday, by the way. Made this quote on RTE after the Doon, the Piershig, Limerick Senior Hurling Championship penalty shootout in the semi-final at that time. He said about penalty shootouts, this is quote unquote by Tom, I love it. I know a lot of people say it's a cruel way to lose, but for me, if one of those teams lost by a point, you're going to have some disappointment. It's going to be the same feeling. We love it in every other sport. I don't understand why people don't like it like it to be implemented in hurling and Gaelic football. I personally think it's great, obviously great to watch. Look, sport is cruel when you lose. Whether you lose during a play by a point or penalties, but if you have 80 minutes to win a game, well, in this case 90, you can't be giving out if you lose on penalties in my eyes.
Yeah,
that's what Tom Morrissey said.
Come with receipts.
So, I had my proof here. So that's what he said back then. So if Limerick people are going to turn around and say that penalties is the way to decide a game, maybe look at what one of your players said a few years ago. Just saying. But overall, I do think a Munster final decided on penalties. In terms of the split season, you kind of need to get games done. But could there been a replay next week? Because next week there's only prelim quarterfinals. Tipperary and Dublin are involved in those. They're not in provincial finals. The only caveat to that,
3 weekends.
Whoever loses that will have a game the week after in the All-Ireland quarterfinal.
Yeah.
That's the big thing out of it. But then again, you would fancy Limerick to beat, no offense, sorry Séamus, but you would fancy Limerick to beat Dublin anyway.
What? Step outside, mate. I'm not having that.
That's outrageous.
You mean to tell me that the team who've won 4 All-Irelands in a row are favourites against us? I'm not having it.
But to be fair, lads, you do get my point, do you?
I do.
No, I kind of agree with that, because like we've seen it with Armagh over the last number of years, losing penalty shootouts. In the Armagh Championship, I've seen it in the Offaly Championship, teams going out because they've lost on penalties. And look, it is cruel, but like as Tom Morrissey said, it brings an extra bit of excitement. And teams, this is the thing, taking penalties is a skill. Like it's not like it's an easy thing to be doing. Like Jesus, I've I've missed penalties in games. I've scored penalties in games. Like it's a very difficult skill to maneuver, and especially when you're playing in front of a sold out crowd in a big stadium like the Gaelic grounds, and everyone is staring at you as well. It takes natural, like, I suppose, cojones to step up and take a penalty and to slot it as well. And look, it's unfortunate for Limerick to miss them, but Cork had to take them too. Do you know, like both teams had to take them. Someone was bound to miss at some point, but no, I think maybe, look, in a way, yes, it is maybe a small bit harsh. I might have preferred to have maybe if it had gone to extra time and then maybe gone to a replay. But at the same time, look, they've introduced these new rules, and look, we just happen to be probably one of the few sports in the world, along with maybe soccer, that just don't like when rules are changed or when things are changed, and we don't give it time. I mean, that's been evidenced by the new football rules, and people don't like them. But you know, I think this is something that we need to
like them because there's too many scores. I don't understand.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but you know, so I don't know, but no, I have no problem with it. Anyways, I mean, I kept begging for more. To be honest, I was begging Galan to miss, and then I was begging Kieran Joyce to miss at the end, because I was like, no, I want extra time. I know Matthew probably didn't want extra time, but I wanted extra time. So
it's weird because I can very much understand the point that people are saying that they don't like games being decided on penalties, but at the same time, when they were level at the end, I was like, okay, now I would like to see this settled on penalties. Or we have one potentially very interesting proposal being put in here by Sean O'Malley. He says, personally, more so for football, I think a golden score would be more fair and more exciting. A golden score in hurling, it would probably be over in 30 seconds, but like something like that could be interesting, because imagine then the pressure on a puck out. But in the penalty shootouts, if Peter Griffin says here, he says provincial finals should be replayed. Like I look at it this way, and I'm saying to myself, right, okay, I can understand people saying that it shouldn't be decided on penalties. And personally, from a marketing standpoint for the GAA, I get that there's a split season, but when you have a game like that between Cork and Limerick, which is such a brilliant and enthralling and gripping encounter, if they finish level and then you know that the replay is going to be next Saturday night, the whole country is going to be talking about that on the run-up, and you know that you're guaranteed another sellout, another box office viewing and everything like that, and another quality game between the two teams. So to take the replays away from yourselves, you're taking away a lot of, money. You're taking away a lot of money, a lot of promo opportunity, and potentially more big days on the calendar. But obviously the trade-off then is that you get more of a split season, more time for the club championships, etc., etc. It's a difficult one, lads, but I think in the grand scheme of things, for the time being, right now in the moment, penalty shootouts were the right decision. But do you think maybe we need to look at the calendar? Matthew, I'll throw this one to you. Do you think maybe we need to look at the calendar and try and extend it just a little bit to make more room for potential replays? Because, I mean, that's how many years in a row now has a Munster final finished level after full time now? Clare and Limerick a couple of times, Cork, Limerick.
I think Clare Limerick only was once, 2022.
Oh, sorry, yeah, no. Adam Hogan should have got that free. That's what I remember.
Yeah. It's funny because Adam Hogan, when he was fouled, he didn't get the free, but when...
It wouldn't be like Adam Hogan to dive now, would it?
Yeah. Look, Clare out of the championship, that's history. In terms of the calendar, I do think, I've said this for a long time as well, the pre-season competitions are gone now. Could you not start the league mid-January? It's definitely worked up for discussion there. Do you increase the split season for the inter-county until August? But then again, you are taking it from clubs, and genuinely club players, and somebody said this to me as well, 100% of GA players play club. Only a select few play inter-county. Yeah. So you have to take that in consideration as well. The whole country will be playing when the split season starts for the club championship. That has to be taken into consideration. But I think the only way you could kind of extend the calendar is if you start the league early. Start with mid-January. What have you got to lose? Like, I genuinely think that would probably be the best idea in terms of that as well. And in terms of just one more thing about the golden score as well. Sorry, cut across you. The golden score, it was used in soccer in the World Cup around 2002, and obviously none of us watched the 2002 World Cup. I've listened to documentaries, I've seen a lot of things around the 2002 World Cup, and that was the most controversial rule to ever be brought in to soccer. So if it was to be brought in the Gaelic Games, with soccer already been in it for 20 odd years, I don't think it would work.
That was Italy lost, wasn't it? Italy lost to
South Korea, yeah.
Yeah, and it was, but to be fair, the referee in that game,
that was bribery more than anything.
He was a dirty fucker, that ref. I swear he was actually done for something. He was done for some bribery or something. So Italy saying that he was probably bribed for that game, especially when you look at some of his decisions in the game and you look at the fact that South Korea were the hosts, does line up, to be honest. We have a comment in here from Daniel Daly. Says, up the Lilies, delighted for Kildare hurling. I am delighted for Kildare hurling as well. It's great to see a new team on the rise. Says, wish Kerry hurling could follow, but unfortunately it looks like we're going the other way. It was a bad year for Kerry hurling, to be honest. It seems like being so close to getting, out of the Joe McDonagh after having such incredible finals against Antrim down through the years, for example, just coming up that bit short. It feels like it's taken a lot out of them. Acer says Roy Keane was all smiles last night. Stockroom Tim has a question for you. Matthew says, sure, Cork fans were given out last year about the All-Ireland going to extra time, and there wasn't even penalties involved. It's natural for fans to be annoyed when they lose. It's a good point, but again, I thought Matthew responded well. He says the club championship in most counties doesn't start until August anyway, lads. Most. Some counties have just moved it back. Dublin's club championship started. I think it was the hurling had already started by the time the All-Ireland football final was played in 2023. We need more of a break between it for sure. Brian has a good point about replays. We wouldn't have had the 4-game saga in 91 between Dublin and Meath if penalties had been in, and that was one of the most important ties, you could argue, in the GAA's history. Sean O'Malley says that World Cup was corrupt. He surely can't use that as an example. Oh, that World Cup was corrupt as hell. Lads, we are going to move on from this game shortly, but I have one final question to you now, because of the teams we know that they're probably going to meet again. Which camp would you rather be in? Liam, I'll start with you. Would you rather be in the Limerick camp or would you rather be in the Cork camp?
Well, this morning Cork, because they're celebrating. So, but
is it a case of won the battle and the war is still to come?
Yeah. No, it's well, if you're Limerick now, for example, you're looking at it and you're like, right, what's our route to the All-Ireland now? Right. Well, no, look at it this way. They've won 6 in a row in Munster, and what's taken to beat them in a Munster final for the first time in 7 years is penalties, and like they were absolutely driven all the way and could easily have won the game, could easily have lost it throughout the 90 minutes that was played. So, it shows that they're still in a very, very good place. And then you look at, right, who can we play in the All-Ireland quarterfinals? And look, with respect to Séamus, like it is, realistically, they'll probably they'll fancy their chances against Dublin or Kildare. You never know. You never know.
I'm not taking the Kildare game lightly at all. They were very impressive against Laois.
But they'll look at that, and then I can guarantee you they probably looked at the Leinster final today between Kilkenny and Galway. And look, I know Kilkenny are the best side in Leinster, but they definitely, and I know they haven't had to do a lot to win the Leinster Championship this season, but I just think they could be looking at Kilkenny going, that's probably the most ideal sort of draw to get, and especially now that it's on the Sunday afternoon as well, in Croke Park, and like Croke Park is their second home at this point as well. So I feel maybe Limerick, from a perspective of getting to the final, will absolutely be a great place to be at the moment. However, I think at the moment I'd probably still rather be in the Cork camp, just because that buzz they've got now from winning both the league and the championship, from winning the way they did and the comeback they made from that horrible game a couple of weeks ago, and even from the Munster Championship in general, because we weren't sitting here thinking that Cork had been amazing or anything throughout the championship because of the way they threw the Clare game away, the Tip game that got ruined after 60 seconds, the Limerick performance and the Waterford performance. Whereas last night they kind of answered a lot of those questions, and now they're going in fully confident as Munster champions into a semi-final against a Tipperary team who they've beaten twice this year, or a Galway team, because I'll be honest, I don't think Laois will put up much of a challenge to Tipperary next weekend. But realistically a Galway team that they beat very comfortably in the league. And after watching Galway again today, like they won't beat Cork or they won't be beating Cork or Limerick anytime soon. So I think for Cork, and then they've beaten Limerick 3 times now in the last year in the championship. So, you know, I absolutely think at the moment I'd probably rather be in the Cork camp, just because, look, you've won the championship last night. You're in such good form at the moment. And I said at the start of the year, I think their hunger to win the championship this year is just different to what we've seen over the last number of years. But at the same time, nothing to write off about Limerick yet, to be honest with you. They're probably still realistically the favourites to reach the All-Ireland final.
Oh, no, but I think both of them are absolutely favourites to make it back. Interestingly, in the comments, we've different opinions on what camp you'd rather be in. Sean says Cork camp because they had injuries and still won. And Stockroom Tin says Limerick were miles off it and still took it to pens. Hego and was it English taking on shots for goals that weren't on, and some wild point efforts too, unlike them. So both teams have scope for improvement. There's no doubt about it. And one thing that I want to touch on as well, clearly, was the intensity. The referee, Matthew, I'll go to you for this. In the first half, Joanne gave a stat at half-time that there was only 6 frees given in the entire first half. And when you look at the physicality that was in that first half and how they were tearing into each other, the fact that there were only 6 frees given is a crazy stat. And both management teams tried to get to the referee at half-time. Both of them almost tried to outdo each other in terms of getting around the ref, which in my opinion shouldn't be allowed. Like, you just shouldn't be allowed to mess with the ref like that. And it clearly impacted the referee, because he came out in the second half and all of a sudden he was dishing out yellows left, right and centre for frees that he wasn't even giving a free for in the first half. What's your take on that?
First of all, look, I do think the referee, Thomas Walsh, even though the RT commentary called him Tyler last night, I'm not sure why, just a sense of confusion.
I think
it's a nickname.
But geez, like, yeah, just inform the viewers first time, RT, please. Like, you just stop leaving us in the lurch in terms of confusion there. But anyway, I do think Thomas Walsh, that's his name, refereed it well in the first half because he let it flow. That's what hurling, ironically, that's what hurling fans would have wanted, to let this game flow, for no stupid frees to be conceded or anything like that. And then when things are being left go, then there's a bit of argy-bargy on the sideline. But it was Pat that started it. Pat's usually cool and calm and collected on the sideline, so it was very, very unlike him to go in. But to be fair, it probably was a free for Cork going in. But Coyley, to be fair, he went in to try and break the thing up. So and Killark as well. So I don't have any problems with that. But it clearly did affect the ref, as you mentioned, at the start of the second half. He was dishing out yellow cards. He was setting the tone as well. And even for small things as well, what I noticed with Sean O'Donoghue, who threw the hurley away with Aaron Gallan, he was strict on that as well. Yellow cards, like, you can't do that.
So.
Yeah, exactly. So I do think in that instance he refereed it well, and he gave it his all, as epitomised by extra time going down with cramp. Obviously, get well soon, Thomas. Like, that was a serious injury to get. But it does show that he did run himself into the ground, and at the same time as well, he refereed it well. He refereed it manly as well, and I do think it contributed to a free-flowing game. I mentioned there 104 shots across 90 minutes. That's down to the referee, letting the game flow, no itsy-bitsy frees, and I think that was good as well. To be fair, James Owens got a bit of flack online, obviously, because he can come across as a bit of a controversial referee. But I do think he refereed it well when he was on the pitch. I do think he did. He calmed it down. He let it flow, as Thomas did beforehand as well. And I think it was a good game because of that as well. And the stat at halftime, 6 frees, does epitomise in many ways that he did let the game flow, Thomas Walsh. And you have to give him a lot of credit for that. So the halftime, I don't think it should be allowed to happen. That's something that maybe needs to be fixed in future years. But I think he refereed it well, in all honesty.
I agree with you. I think the game was refed really, really well. And the thing is in a game like that, it's the cliche that everybody uses, but that's an impossible game to ref. There's so much going on. There's so much flashpoints. There's scuffles going on off the ball constantly. Every single defender and every single forward are grabbing each other's hurl, grabbing each other's jersey, trying to buy frees left, right, and centre. It's impossible to ref. You just have to do your best. And the thing is when both management teams were going to the referee at halftime and trying to say everything like that. I really think both of them had a point. I thought in the first half, Cian Lynch was getting battered. I thought in the first half as well, I thought Dara Fitzgibbon was coming in for some pretty harsh tackles. I thought both defenses were really going after key players from the opposing team. It was clear that Lynch had a target on his back. It was clear that Fitzgibbon had a target on his back. There were some hefty tackles going in from both sides. So, and Horgan as well, towards the end of the first half, I remember sending a message to you being like, Jesus, what does Horgan have to do to get a free? Both management teams had a point, but what they were saying, and both of them felt like they should get that point across to the referee. So, look, that's nothing. The only thing that winds me up personally is I hate when there's someone in the management team who's like literally a physio or a water boy, and he ends up mouthing off to one of the managers or getting a yellow card. I'm like, what are you doing? You shouldn't be piping up. You should let the managers, let the big boys handle it. Let John Kiley handle it. Let Paul Kinnerk handle it. Let Pat Ryan handle it. Because I think Dan put up something where you can see it's just a Limerick coach and he's trying to get to Pat Ryan. And I'm just like, what are you doing here? Like, I get that maybe you want to back up Kiley and Kinnerk and everything like that. And you don't want to let Pat Ryan get a word into the ref. But I just feel like in those situations, if you're a part of the management team, you should lead from the front, and getting involved in stupid squabbles like that, especially if you're not one of the main managers, is ridiculous. That's my personal take on it. Like, there was instances, I think, I can't remember, tell me if I'm wrong, but I believe it might have been, I won't quote this because I'm not sure, but I remember watching and there was one coach who got involved. Oh, it was Jim McGuinness and Ray Galligan. And you can see the Cavan coach is really getting at McGuinness.
Yeah.
And I get that, yeah, like I'm just thinking, let Raymond Galligan handle it.
Yeah.
Galligan's a big lad, he can handle it. He doesn't need you to get involved, because when you get involved, all of a sudden it's a third man in, and then now it's a problem.
It's attention seeking at the same time, isn't it?
I think it's something like that. I think it's wanting your moment on the screen. Or maybe it's just the tribalist nature of being in the team. Like, we've all experienced it. We've all been in clubs, and if you're on the sideline there with your substitutes, or if you're on the sideline there and you're part of the management team and you're part of the team, you don't want to leave your teammate hanging. So I think that's kind of what it is as well. That's the main thing, but definitely needs to be squashed, in my opinion, because it is getting more commonplace, I feel like, or maybe we're just seeing it a little bit more. Denise says, unfortunately, those kind of encounters are becoming more often. Again, don't know if it's becoming more often. I think if you look back, I'll correct myself on that. If you look back, to games in years gone by, sure, remember, I'll give you an example, 1998, when the Waterford team waited for the Clare team coming out of the tunnel and just shouldered them as they were making their way onto the pitch, and it all kicked off. That was in the Munster Hurling Final. Like, there's been plenty of examples of this down through the years. It always has a feeling that it's getting more commonplace. But yeah, Brian says, agrees with me. Brian says Cian Lynch and Dara Fitzgibbon were clearly targeted. And also Thomas Walsh ref the game very well. It is a contact sport after all. Yeah, massive credit to Walsh. Credit to James Owens as well for jumping in and picking up the baton and carrying on. An incredible Munster final, full of drama, full of action, full of talking points, which we love to see. And Cork shaded on penalties, but no doubt, I think they will lock horns again. What a Munster final, and Cork are the Munster champions for the first time since 2018. Massive congratulations to them. And we're going to move over now to the Leinster Senior Hurling Championship final. Kilkenny 322, Galway 120. Liam, you can throw that Galway jersey in the bin now, because you don't have to put it on. For those that don't know, Liam would have had to wear a Galway jersey on this podcast if Galway had won, but I think in the second half we had it kind of figured out that wasn't going to be the case. Liam, what did you make of this game?
I've had that Galway jersey for 6 years. I'm not going to throw it out yet. It's still a nice jersey, to be fair. I didn't see the whole of this game. I was at the Offaly match. I was at our own match against Mayo today, so I was only kind of seeing bits of the first half, and I saw the second half on the way home on my phone. I'll be honest with you, I was nearly falling asleep watching it. It was a bit of in comparison to yesterday, it was a bit of a snooze fest, to be honest with you. And I don't even want to sit here and say I was right about Galway or anything like that, because I don't actually take pride in saying anything like that, because I want the Leinster Championship to be competitive. I wanted this game to be competitive like yesterday's game was, but it just, it just felt flat from the very first minute of the game. Like the Joe McDonagh final was full of energy. There was fast-paced hurling, and both teams were going at it. Certainly Kildare, for the most part, looked like the most energized team in Croke Park. And then the Leinster final, I don't know, even a commentator, even Darren Maloney and Michael Dignan just sounded bored, to be honest with you. They just sounded like they wanted to be anywhere else, to be honest with you. It was like there was 37,000 people there, but there was 20,000 free tickets handed out. So really, you think of it, 17,000 people bought tickets for this final for an 82,000 seater stadium. Like, I genuinely am of the opinion now, I think we need to move the Leinster final out of Croke Park, go to Portleigh, go to Nolan Park, go to O'Connor Park, go to Dr. Cullen Park, hell, bring it down to Wexford Park, just bring it somewhere else, because like, unless you're getting a Wexford or maybe an Offaly at best, or even at best maybe a Dublin, you're not going to get a big crowd at a Leinster final, and it's just going to feel extremely dull. And like, I mean, the scoreline makes it look like it was okay, but I mean, if we're going to be realistic about it, Kilkenny fell asleep at the wheel. Galway obviously picked up a goal from Brian Concannon, which was a great finish, to be fair. And really, Cathal Mannion is the only Galway forwards that can come out of that game with his head held high, because I remember I found one stat, I have it here from that was shown from Scorebio earlier, and I don't know what minute of the game it was, but it was the entire Galway forward line. Mannion had 7 points. Mm-hmm. Fleming had 1 point. Monaghan had 1 point. Cooney had 1 point. Concannon and Whelan had nothing. Like, that's just not good enough in an inter-county Leinster final. It's absolute. Like, Galway went from, I think, the 22nd minute to, I believe, the 59th minute without a score from play. Like, that's great.
You don't deserve to win any game.
That's criminal in a junior game. Like, that's never mind a senior inter-county game of the highest, what's supposed to be the highest grade you can play at. Like, that's extremely poor. And really, Kilkenny were coasting in second gear. It was a very stop-start game as well, unlike yesterday, to be honest with you. And they really got through it with minimal fuss. I felt sorry for the Galway goalkeeper that dropped the ball at the end as well. It was nice to see Owen Murphy consoling him and saying, that look, that doesn't define you. It's only one moment, forget about it. And look, Galway had that game lost before he even made that moment. So if I was him, I wouldn't worry about that, to be honest with you. But I think Galway were extremely, extremely poor. And it just shows when they were going up against like the real top class teams that they're a real level above or a level below. I had maybe small bit of faith that maybe, because they did beat them 2 years ago, that maybe against Tipperary, they might have a slim chance. After today, I'm dreading to see what Tipperary will do to them, to be honest with you.
I don't know, because again, they've had games this year where they've been awful, and then they've usually followed it up with a decent result and a decent performance. Like, they were so shockingly bad against Kilkenny in the opening round, to the point where I thought maybe Wexford would be able to do something to them. Galway beat them out the gate. They went away to Parnell Park. They beat Dublin. Very impressive performance. Now, are those teams on the caliber of Tipperary? Probably not. But at the same time, I wouldn't say we can write Galway off fully, because if they've been one thing this season, it's inconsistent as hell. And whatever it was in this final, because even then they were inconsistent in this game. You were talking about how long they went without a score from play. When they all of a sudden turned it on and got the goal from Concannon and then a couple of points, Kevin Cooney slotted one over, I was thinking, like, where was this? Like, where the hell was this? Did you not realize you are like literally asleep behind the wheel, completely losing the grip on a potential Leinster Championship? Kilkenny are sleepwalking at this stage to 6 in a row. They've just kicked it into cruise control because they know what to do from here. And Matthew, I think, because the mistake from the young goalkeeper, horrible to see. We don't want to see that happen. But that is not where Galway lost this game. They lost that game in the period, as Liam mentioned, where they failed to get a score from play and let Kilkenny get so far ahead of them.
Exactly, yeah. The third quarter was really, really poor from a Galway point of view. It was only Cathal Mannion that was keeping the minute. At one stage, he actually missed the free, and you would have backed Cathal to actually put that over. But I was thinking the exact same. I have been positive about Galway over the last week, but when Galway started to crank up the gears with Kevin Cooney getting a score, with Tiernan Killeen getting a score off the bench, when Concannon got the quick thinking goal, which is a good goal to be fair, I was thinking, why didn't you do this earlier?
Yeah.
Clearly, Kilkenny are very and what boggles me about Galway in this game in particular, every time like Conor Whelan, this was one example. Conor Whelan actually put the ball long. I think the commentator said it was a shot. I thought it was a pass. I thought it was a long pass in.
I thought
And
it was
Hugh
a pass,
Lawler
yeah.
actually claimed it. Hugh Lawler, absolute Lord of the Sky, claimed it. But he was doing it every single time. And when Galway put it in low, then they started to get joy. You were thinking, why couldn't they do this in the whole game? You know, like you kind of have to think on your feet. I think the Cork minor football manager Keith Ricketts said this as well. He loves seeing players think for themselves on the pitch. It didn't seem like Galway were thinking for themselves. They were thinking one plan. Let's move the ball high, and it kept getting cleaned out by Hugh Lawler.
It was only semi-working when Cathal Mannion was thrown into full forward as well. It almost felt like they were taking too long to change things up, to be honest with you. And it was sort of frustrating to watch. And especially when like Conor Whelan is so dangerous. Conor Whelan is a dangerous corner forward. Like he is. Like there's no point saying otherwise. He's one of the best forwards we've seen over the last 10 years, you know. And I can understand to a degree why they might have brought him out the field to try and win dirty ball. He's a big, imposing figure. But I don't know, at the end of the day, you're thinking, right, that's not working. Throw him back into the full forward line and see what can happen, because he's one of the best catchers in Ireland as well. He's brilliant. Like I think back to his goal in the 2018 All-Ireland final, the way he just leapt up like a salmon and just caught it down and buried it past Nicky Quaid. He's capable of doing something like that. Now, Hugh Lawler is excellent under a high ball. There's no question about that. But just put someone like Whelan underneath that to challenge him, because otherwise it was bread and water to Hugh Lawler just standing there having to catch the ball all day. Like it was minimal.
Also, what I was thinking then, just to tag on to that point, is I was thinking from a Kilkenny point of view, I would want Whelan as far away from the goal as possible. And for Galway to voluntarily take him away from the goal like that. Like I get that Cathal Mannion diving in there with he made a massive difference when he went in. But Whelan is such a goal getter for Galway, has been over the years. Maybe he's not at the level that he was, but again, we don't really know what level he's at in front of the goal because Galway haven't really deployed him there. They've taken what was one of the most deadly inside forwards over the last 5 years and turned him into like a workhorse around the middle. And I don't really understand what the thought process is. Is he good at it? Yeah. Are there other players in the Galway team who can do that? Surely. Surely there are other players who could do that job.
And it's not that he's even bad at doing that, because he is very good at doing that. But like you said,
but he's better at scoring goals, in my opinion.
Exactly, or being in around the square to get a couple of points.
But even then, like if you don't have Conor Whelan in the full forward line, okay, you could try it around the middle. As one of the commenters said there, where was Anthony Burns? Where was Declan McLaughlin?
Yeah,
those are goal getters. Why aren't Galway playing those players? It boggles belief, to be honest with you. And he's left the panel. Okay. He hasn't officially retired. So, but as the commenter said there, Anthony Burns, he was in very, very good form for his club. Very good. We mentioned him during the week on my pod as well. Why did it take up until, I'd say, the last 15 or 10 minutes to bring him on when you were clearly in trouble?
Yeah.
Declan McLaughlin's not even on the panel after him scoring a goal against Antrim this year. Like I think Darragh Maloney mentioned the Statsman commentary as well. Galway scored 9 goals up until today in the Leinster Championship, and 6 of them had been against Antrim. Let's be honest, Antrim are the worst team in the Leinster Championship this year by a country mile. They clearly haven't been scoring goals this year. They scored 1 against Wexford, none against Dublin, none against Kilkenny, 2 against Offaly. And those are your real games.
And to further your point, the 2 goals that they scored were 2 goals that we handed them. They didn't even work hard for those goals. They were 2 unfortunate mistakes from our perspective. So even then, really, when you boil all that down, really, their efficiency in front of goal this year has been, I wouldn't even say it's been disappointing. It's from the perspective of the players that they have, it's been rather embarrassing.
Well, they didn't have any penetration in this game, honestly, I thought, for long periods. A2 has an interesting comment. Said Galway always turn up against Tip, and this year will give us another indicator to see that. Joseph Nash says it's looking like a Tipperary v Cork and Limerick v Kilkenny semi-final, and then I think from that we'll get a Limerick-Cork final. All for this as well. Sean O'Malley here. I'll be interested, Liam, as a fellow Leinster man, to get your take on this. Sean says, I said this on Aaron's podcast, the Leinster hurling final has to be taken out of Croker. I don't see why the Munster Championship can have it anywhere, but with Leinster, it has to be in Croker. I mean, you look at it that way, the Munster hurling final was sold out, and it had an amazing atmosphere, and you saw what the fans running onto the pitch at full time, the scenes and everything like that. 37,000 people were in Croke Park for the Leinster final. Now, I understand that the tickets that they gave away are included in that, but that's still a healthy figure. Now, if that crowd was in Nolan Park, if that crowd was in O'Moore Park, I know that that's above the capacity, but you're at capacity then. You're full. You're sold out. Yeah. The atmosphere would be buzzing. The game would feel more like an event. And then on top of that, when the final whistle goes, you have the fans on the pitch and you have similar scenes to what we've seen in the Cork versus Limerick Munster final. Because Croke Park is so big, when it's not even half full, it does feel hollow. It feels strange. I'm speaking from the point of view of a Dublin football fan and hurling fan who's gone to Leinster games where Dublin have been playing against teams in Leinster where there's 30,000 at the game. And that's still a very healthy number for most grounds around the country. But for Croke Park, it doesn't feel like a lot at all. And what I feel like it does is it just dilutes the occasion a little bit because it's hard for the atmosphere to really come across on the telly. The way that it comes across for the Munster hurling final, the way it comes across for any occasion where the ground is packed. You look at the Ulster final, the Ulster football final, that always has an atmosphere that comes through the screen. Unless you're going to get 60,000 as far as I'm concerned. I would make a case for 50,000, but if you're not going to get 50,000, start looking at grounds outside.
I can even link that to the club championship because although it was great for, say, my own club, Kilcormac Clyde, to play the Leinster club final in Croke Park and get a day out, there was 10,000 people there, you know, for our game against Navina. And even the game before that, which was Coola and St. Mary's RD, you know. And like my own club was in a couple of Leinster finals in their 2010s, and they were all, two of them were in Portlaoise and one was in Nolan Park. And they felt a lot more special in a way because you could mingle with people on the pitch afterwards, and it was so closed in, and you know, people were all on top of each other, and you know, and as well as that, in Croke Park, no matter what time of the year it is, like, you're playing on a beautiful surface, whereas like the previous week against Castledown-Geoghegan, it felt like war games, to be honest with you. It was an out-and-out war, to be honest with you. But no, I agree fully. Like, I mean, 37,000 sounds brilliant, but for Croke Park, it's hollow. It is. Like, it absolutely is. When all the top tier stands are all empty and most of the hill is empty, then really you're getting nowhere, you know. So it's, I don't know. I do agree. Like, I understand that Leinster, say, unbelievably doesn't have another sort of 45,000 seater stadium, obviously, other than the Aviva, but we don't have something like a Semple Stadium or a Páirc Uí Chaoimh or a Gaelic Grounds. But just even if you got 20,000, I don't know what the capacity fully is for O'Moore Park. I think it's more than ours. But if you got 20,000 into
27,000, I think.
Possibly, yeah. But if you got 20,000 into Portlaoise, if you got the 18, 19, 20,000 into O'Connor Park, if you got 22, 23, 24,000 into Nolan Park, that is just so much more authentic and nice to look at than a very hollow Croke Park. Like, you saw it this year with Meath and Louth, that's an occasion where Croke Park is brilliant because there were 67, 68,000 people at it.
There you go.
Whereas today, I don't know, it just felt very meh, you know, like it just didn't feel special. It felt like a pre-season game, like a challenge match, to be honest with you. It didn't feel like a Leinster final at all. I know it says there they played the replay in 2018 in Thurles, but I didn't keep it in Leinster for the moment, but I just think Croke Park at this point probably shouldn't be the Leinster final, to be honest with you. I think we need to start scoping around and putting it somewhere else, barring, like you said, you're going to get maybe an Offaly or a Wexford or a Dublin, say, where you could potentially get your 45, 50, 60,000 people at it.
Yeah, I would look at, unless it's a pairing like a Dublin Galway or a Dublin Kilkenny where it's, you know, you're going to get a big crowd. Wexford as well travels superbly well. Offaly, if Offaly got to a Leinster final, they'd bring the county. Like, I know you can vouch for that, but like, if it's not at that level, if it's going to be 35,000 around that, start looking at grounds that can hold 30,000, 40,000, and maybe think about throwing it in there, because when you're talking about growing the game of hurling, you want to make finals look like a festival, look like a day out, look like something that you want to go to in a packed stadium where they're all on the pitch at the end and it's, you know, sunshine and happiness and everything like that. That's what people want to see. And when Croke Park is full, it's the best arena I've ever seen. Like, it's unbelievable when it's full. But when it's not full, it can feel hollow. And I think it just should be considered. We moved the Leinster semi-finals in the football out of Croke Park this year, and that worked for the better. That absolutely worked for the better. So with the hurling final, you're looking at counties. Like, obviously, Dublin probably has more of a football tradition. That's probably not a controversial thing to say. But you look at Offaly, you look at Kilkenny, you look at Wexford. 3 counties that are absolutely steeped in hurling heritage, steeped in hurling history, like genuine legends like Brian Wheelahan, like Eddie Kerr, Henry Shefflin, Nicky Rackard. Like, you look at, could Leinster try and transform one of Wexford Park, one of Nolan Park, or one of O'Connor Park into our Semple Stadium, our Thurles, where like the Leinster hurling final is always played in this arena, and it attaches the heritage to that. I'd be up for trying it. I'd be up for giving it a go. Because let's be honest, if Cork and Limerick played the Munster hurling final in Croke Park, I firmly believe they could have sold the place out. No problem.
Yeah.
So it's because the fans wanted it to be, because of the heritage, because of the history, they wanted it to be in a Munster ground. And I feel like Leinster should aim for the same. But it's a very interesting debate, and I am open to all sides. And just drop the comments in, let me know what you think about this. Brian says, I love Croke Park when it's full to capacity. So do I, Brian. Lourdes says, Limerick v Kilkenny and Cork v Galway semi-finals. That's the predictions from Rudders 38. But yeah, Kilkenny are Leinster hurling champions for the 6th time in a row. We do have to give them a massive shout for that. Unbelievable achievement, unbelievable consistency from Kilkenny. Once again, they just pick up silverware non-stop. No matter what's going on, Kilkenny always find a way to win a trophy. Unbelievable as well. Got to give a shout to TJ Reid. The guy's still doing the business for them. Unbelievable from him. And yeah, deserving winners. They were by far the better team on the day. Worthy Leinster hurling champions for 2025. Now, a new foe has emerged, lads. What a day for Kildare hurling. Joe McDonagh Cup champions for 2025, beating Laois by 226 to 119. They doubled down. They went away to Laois in O'Moore Park in the earlier rounds and beat them. They went away to Carlow and beat them. They confirmed their place in the Joe McDonagh Cup final, where they eventually were going to play against Laois after Laois saved that point against Carlow with the last-minute goal. But Kildare just proved how good they are in this game. Unbelievable performance, unbelievable victory. Matthew, I'll come to you first.
And there was the joke by Damien Lawler that everywhere Brian Dowling goes, he wins trophies. He's won, obviously,
you
2
can use the Ange
Camogie
Postecoglou quote.
Yeah,
I don't
but he's an
usually
Arsenal
win trophies. I always win trophies.
He's earned my
He's an
respect
Arsenal.
as well.
Yeah, exactly. You know, he's a brilliant manager, and obviously a lot of people would have probably questioned Kildare's appointment to Brian Dowling, considering maybe, like, a lot of people, not that they say Camogie's not important, but they would say the jump between Camogie and hurling would be huge. But Brian Dowling has proved his shoulders wrong. He's gone into Kildare and he has changed the standards in Kildare more than anything as well. He got Kildare's first Joe McDonagh trophy win this year against Westmeath. And to go on and win the competition in the same year, it's an exceptional achievement for everyone involved in Kildare hurling as well. See the videos as well of Keno, he's a TikToker from Kildare as well, with the whole Kildare panel taking photos outside Croke Park, which is just a nice thing to see as well. So well done to Keno and everybody in Kildare as well. So yeah, it was just a brilliant performance. David Quads are superb. Jack Sheridan scored 2 goals down in Port Laois against Laois. He scored another one today. Obviously, Jack Travers coming off the bench and scoring a goal as well. Up until that point, I think he scored 4 points in the run to Joe McDonagh final. So for him to come off the bench and get a goal, superb. Jerry Keegan continued his form as well. Paul Dolan, James Burke. So this is a big win for Kildare hurling, and not just Kildare hurling, lower tier hurling as well, because a lot of people would have said Kildare would have been maybe favourites to go down, especially after the loss to Kerry in the Joe McDonagh Cup earlier on in the season. But for them to go on and win this competition, it's an absolutely brilliant achievement. A lot of people would have fancied Carlow, they would have fancied Laois, potentially Westmeath, with the talent that they had. But Kildare, they weren't having it. what a superb achievement by them, and Brian Downing deserves a lot of credit for the work that he has done with Kildare hurling. And it's a brilliant achievement by them. I have to mention as well a guy called Aidan Leahy. He's a commentator for Clubber. He's a Kerry man, I think he is. And he tweeted after the Kerry and Kildare game saying, Kildare still can't win a game in the Joe McDonagh with all their roaring and bawling and crying. After Kildare lost to Kerry the first day out. Ever since then, Kildare have won 5 games in a row. Like, if any team was going to shut up a tweet like that, it's that one. And I think Dar Melville, one of the Kildare players, actually quoted that tweet with the lads on the bus with the trophy. It's brilliant. You know what? We live for this. It's a brilliant achievement for Kildare. And they play Dublin next week. And you know what? I think Dublin would be favourites, but they will fancy their chance. The Kildare and Dublin and hurling in Newbridge. Like, who would see that coming down through the years?
That would be an occasion. Sean O'Malley here says, hopefully we get to a point where we can extend the Leinster Championship to 8 to 10 teams. Kildare have done great, but they need consistent games against top counties to truly grow. I firmly believe that. I think when we look at the Leinster Championship, a lot of teams have suffered from the kind of yo-yo effect where they're stuck in a spot where they're almost too good for the Joe McDonagh, but not quite good enough to stay in the Leinster Championship. It's happened to Laois, it's happened to Westmeath, and I hope it doesn't happen to Kildare. I hope that they can consolidate themselves in the Leinster Championship for years to come. Peter Griffin says it here. He says Kildare won't fear Dublin, especially in Newbridge. Liam, I actually think this is going to be a real tasty game, this one between Kildare and Dublin, because you've got a team that's on the come up in Kildare and you got Dublin there, who, if I was in the Kildare camp, I'd be looking at Dublin thinking there's a scalp to be got for us here. Laois did it in 2019. Offaly, who got out of the John McDonagh last year, took them all the way in Parnell Park. Kildare have them in Newbridge. Can they win this game?
Yeah, I suppose to quote Mick McCarthy, they can. Well, like not fully, but they can. They can. No, they absolutely can. There's no reason why they couldn't. I was watching them today on the way to the game in Roscommon, and I was so impressed with them. The way they used the width of Croke Park, their speed. I mean, Cian Bourne and Rian Bourne, oh my goodness, they are serious hurlers. Was it Rian or who got man the match? Which one of them?
Cian got man the match. Rian's the captain. Rian Bourne's as good a fullback as I've seen. He's unbelievable.
Cian was absolutely savage, but Rian, especially the hooking, the blocking, and just their overall leaderships, the two of them today, especially. I saw the majority of the first half more than the second half. Was absolutely savage. If anything, they kind of kept Kildare sort of in the game, because I couldn't believe the score at half time, to be honest with you, because I thought Laois were so well off the pace, to be honest with you. I thought Kildare really should have had the game wrapped up by half time. Sheridan was really going well by half time. I just saw nothing from Laois, to be honest with you. Their attack was very poor. I think they had 11 wides by half time. Their discipline, again, was severely letting them down, to be honest with you. I was very, very disappointed with that. And especially when you've got Qualter, who's an unbelievable free taker. Like, he's a savage free taker. Some of the frees he sent over from every angle was superb. Like, you're asking to be punished. Even look at Purcell, like, even he was struggling at times today. Their midfield, which overran us last year, was struggling massively today. They could not keep up with Kildare at all, especially their forward line as well. I mean, Keegan's one of the best players I've seen in a long time come out of a Joe McDonagh team. He's someone I'm looking forward to seeing next year. Please God, all going well in the Leinster Championship next year. These are the type of players you want to be seeing. James Burke in midfield was savage as well. He ran the show, to be honest with you. I was just, as good as Kildare was, and as much as like the goal, especially from Jack Sheridan, the way he finished it off so beautifully off his right-hand side. It kind of reminded me of O'Mara's goal in the 2019 final for Tipperary, where he just side to the left and side to the right and then blasted it past Owen Murphy. Sort of similar type finish. It put the final nail in the coffin for Laois, but I don't know where they go from here now, because they've been relegated to Division 2A as well, and they're going to be back in the Joe McDonagh again next year, which, as we've seen, it's not easy to get out of. Like you said, Kerry lost 2 finals, and now they're going back down to Christy Ring And I still don't know how the hell they bet Kildare in that first game, because I was watching the game. I still don't know how they did it. But it just shows you. I'm not saying Laois are going to exactly go down the trajectory of Kerry, but the more and more times you fail to get out of the Joe McDonagh, the more and more it becomes difficult, especially when you have Antrim coming back down next year as well. So it's a really bad result for Tommy Fitzgerald's side. It's just been a really tough couple of months for Laois, obviously, with Darren Gleeson stepping down, Tommy Fitzgerald coming in kind of last minute. And yeah, it's just been a very tough season for them. And even at times, their decision-making was kind of poor. Even towards the end of the game, they were going for points more than they were trying to get goals, which is what they needed to try and get back into the game. It was, I don't know, it was sort of confusing to watch. Simon Lacey, someone I meant to mention as well. I thought he was absolutely superb at cornerback. He's a real attacking defender, I have to say. Sort of like a Mark Coleman type player who he can defend, but my God, he loves to go forward, and any chance he gets. Like, he scored one great point, I think it was in the first half, and he actually nearly scored a goal just before that as well. Only I think he was hooked or blocked before that. So yeah, no, but listen, fair play to Kildare. I look forward to traveling to Newbridge next year to face them once again. I've seen them a few times in person when they played us in the league in Division 2A and in the Joe McDonagh. So massive congratulations to them. Massive respect to Brian Dowling for not wanting to be compared to a Tottenham manager, and he's an Arsenal fan, so he has my full respect for that. But yeah, no, and absolutely, they'll target that Dublin game next week. If it was Tipperary, I feel it might be a different story. And I'll be honest now, I fear for what could happen to Laois next weekend. Like, not even like all joking aside and rivalries aside. Like, I saw it 2 years ago when we played Tip and we lost the Joe McDonagh final, and Tip put 738 past us. I do have a small worry that the form Tip are in at the moment, they could do the same thing to Laois next weekend. But in terms of Kildare Dublin, do you know what? We've seen stranger things happen. So I think Dublin might still just will have enough and be strong enough to get over the line in that game. But like you said, there's stranger things that have happened in the GAA.
Yeah, well, I'll put it this way. I was more impressed with how Kildare won this final and how good Kildare have looked than I was impressed with Laois in the 2019 Joe McDonagh Cup before they beat us.
Yeah.
So I'm more aware of the threat from Kildare. I think with Laois, Laois were like the first Joe McDonagh team to beat someone when nobody expected them to. And but they kind of shattered the glass and made teams realize that actually this can happen. So I think Dublin will be more ready for it. We tend to beat who we're supposed to beat. And so I do think we will get over the line, but I do think they will bloody our nose up. I really do think that. I think they'll make it very, very difficult for us. And I think we'll get through, but we'll catch a few bruises on the way. I really believe that. The Kildare are a super team, well worthy of it. It was an amazing day for Kildare hurling, and Jarlath Burns summed it up in his speech when he was awarding the cup to the Kildare captain Rian Bourne. We need new teams in hurling to keep growing the game, and Kildare, it's a special group there. Rian Bourne, Keane Bourne, James Burke, Jack Sheridan, David Qualter, Jerry Keegan. These are all amazing hurlers. They've got a great team there, great coach in Brian Dowling, who definitely has upped the standards. And now, in the same year where they won their first ever game in the Joe McDonagh Cup, they've now also won the Joe McDonagh Cup. And going up to the Liam McCarthy Cup, they won't fear anyone. They're going to go there, stick their chests out and give it a right good crack. And speaking from a Dublin perspective, we have a huge task ahead of us going away to Newbridge to play them. That is not going to be a game that is not going to be an easy game by any stretch of the imagination. That is going to be a very, very difficult game. I do make Dublin favourites, but we're going to have to work for that one. Kildare absolutely earned this win. Congratulations to them. Incredible victory. Incredible day. We're going to move then away from hurling. We're going to touch on the Camogie round 3. So Matthew, I'll jump to you for Group 1. In Group 1, Clare and Limerick drew 12 points to a goal and 9. This was at Cusack Park, but feel free to say the name if you would like. And then in the other game, this was a horrific beatdown. Tipperary 7-18, Wexford 7 points, and that was in Wexford Park. Your thoughts on Group 1?
First of all, Zimmer Biomet Park is I don't want to get sued. Secondly, the Clare Limerick game. Look, this was a crucial game for both sides in terms of who will finish third in the group. And now it's getting a bit more spicier because it's going to be points difference now. And at the moment, because Limerick lost by 38 points to Cork, that is derailing them a small bit. For the Clare and Cork game later on down the line, it depends what mood Cork are in. Cork could be in whatever mood they want. will we hammer Clare today? Will we not? Because Cork are so far ahead of everybody in the country, it's ridiculous. But in fairness, I do think in terms of the fact that Limerick already lost by 38 points to Cork, I think it's a better result for Clare because they've already beaten Wexford. They've drawn to Limerick. That's 4 points on the board. Now, Limerick have 4 points as well. Obviously, we'll go down to points difference towards the end of it. And Clare still have Tipperary to play too. So that should be a very interesting game when you look at it. Limerick still have to play Tipperary as well. So their score difference might take another hit in the next few weeks, but we'll have to see.
Beat everyone but Cork, man. I'm fully confident of that.
They probably will, yeah. But then again, Limerick and Clare, these are two counties that really want to be on the upper end of Camogie at the moment, considering the talented UL Ashburn Cup players. You have the likes of Statsman and Cuive Cahill for Clare. For Limerick, you have the likes of Stephanie Wolfe in that team and Alva Larkin. So you would imagine that those two teams would want to be at the upper end, considering UL's dominance in that Ashburn Cup. But it is a better result for Clare, in my opinion, but obviously remains to be seen. The other game, Tipperary and Wexford, to be honest, I'm shocked at Wexford, lads. I really am. They've lost twice now to Limerick and Clare, and now that's another beatdown off Tipperary. If they're getting a beatdown off Tipperary, imagine what Cork are going to do to them in their next round, in the last round for them. I mean, they're going to play Derry in a relegation playoff that's all but sealed, I would say, considering there's no B teams in the intermediate grade, which is obviously a positive move for the Camogie Association. But I think this isn't going to do Wexford any favours if they're just going to keep getting beat down after beat down. It's going to hurt them more than anything in the long run. We'll talk about Derry in a sec as well. As for tape, Grace O'Brien got 310. Brilliant performance again by Grace. And I will say this, and I'll say it again. For last season, how did Grace not get an All-Star nominee? She was the top scorer for play last season. She has been absolutely incredible over the last few seasons. She has to get an All-Star nominee this year. Surely. She's one of the main scorers for Tipperary. He caught the van there. There's no doubt about it. Karen Kenny got 2-1 as well. Roisin Howard got 1-1 and Jean Kelly got 1-1. So good scoring there from a Tipperary point of view. But you would imagine Cork and Tip will be at the top two. Third place, Clare and Limerick. It looks like Clare at this present moment of time. But we'll see what happens with scoring difference in particular in the next few weeks.
Certainly. So, personally, I think Cork will top it, that group, and I think Tipperary will finish second. Liam, I'll come to you then for Group 2. So, obviously, this was the main game which stood out across the round, in my opinion, a repeat of the Leinster semi-final and the All-Ireland quarter-final last season between Dublin and Kilkenny. Kilkenny won in Parnell Park by a goal in 19 to Dublin's 1-14. Now, Dublin were without Ash Maher, which is a caveat. You do have to take that into consideration. Ash Maher is Dublin's best player. But Aoife Prendergast, as it was a massive shout from Kilkenny, 111 for her absolutely outstanding individual display. And then in the other game, I mean, what do you even say about this? Waterford 5-30, Derry 2 points. Matthew, we did say that this could be a fair beatdown, and I mean, look at that scoreline. I mean, that speaks volumes. Abby Flynn with 3-3, Beth Carton with 1-8, Niamh Rocket with 1-5. It's unfortunate when we have results like this. Liam, what's your take on Group 2's round 3?
I suppose to even get Waterford Derry kind of out of the way, first of all, like that's a very, very tough defeat to take. And we all kind of said it a few weeks back that we felt Derry were going to be the weak links in this group, and it's proof is in the pudding at the moment, and it's unfortunate for them because I don't even think Derry are even just a bad side. They're just in a really, really strong group, and they're just going through a difficult time at the moment. And look, Waterford here, look, they did what they had to do. They showed absolutely no mercy whatsoever. Like you said, Abby Flynn with a hat-trick of goals and points, Beth Carton with 1-8, Niamh Rocket with 1-5, Ryan Brain with 3 points. So, but look, whether it does Waterford any good getting a result like this in a game like this, we'll have to wait and see. They'll know they'll have tougher games to come, but I suppose nonetheless, you can only play what's in front of you. For Dublin, Kilkenny, like you said, I mean, what more needs to be said about Aoife Prendergast, to be honest with you? She's the leader that she is for that Kilkenny team over the last number of years. 111, 1-3 from play. It was a fantastic performance from her again. She's one of the best players to ever come out of Kilkenny. And yeah, performances like this only just prove how important she is to that side. It was another cracking game. And look, it's unfortunate for Dublin to lose again, especially after winning that quarterfinal against them last year. I felt maybe this was a time, and especially when we all thought Kilkenny might have been in a bit of transition as well. But no, they've won the Leinster title. They won it quite comfortably against Wexford in Dr. Cullen Park. Well, Netwatch Cullen Park. I better get that right. Jesus. Jesus. I'm getting sued now. But yeah, no, very convincing win in the final, and then to come up and win by 5 points here again is fantastic. And I suppose, look, take into consideration as well, they held a very healthy lead at halftime. They led 111 to 6 points. Aisling O'Neill's goal just after the break, I suppose, made it somewhat interesting again. But Kilkenny, sort of like the men today, always had their foothold on the game, and it never really felt like they were ever going to lose the lead. They were always 5-6 points ahead. You know, there was always a bit of a deficit there for Dublin to try and climb back. And it was just too much for them to close down. And I wouldn't, look, if I was Dublin, I wouldn't, well, not lose sleep, but I wouldn't worry too much about this result. I don't think it's any shame in losing by 5 points to, even if it is a Kilkenny team that people consider somewhat in transition, it's still Kilkenny at the end of the day, despite losing to Waterford even last week, which, by the way, fantastic result for Waterford. Fantastic to see them getting was their first ever win over Kilkenny in the Camogie Championship, I believe, which was absolutely fantastic to see. But yeah, I suppose Dublin will be tough, will be sore after this one, especially given that they did leave themselves too much to do at halftime.
No, they certainly did. Look, in this game, from a Dublin perspective, it was a tough defeat to take, but we'll bounce back. And when you're missing a player the caliber of Aisling O'Neil, like, you have to take that. She's worth 6 or 7 points a game for Dublin. Matthew, you were mentioning about how far Cork are ahead, and they are. Like, there's no doubt in the Camogie Championship right now, Cork are the obvious benchmark. They're the obvious team to beat. When we look at potential challengers, Kilkenny, as Liam said, winning the Leinster Championship, starting the group strong. This win over Dublin there recently now, over the weekend. Are Kilkenny the front runners potentially to challenge Cork, or would you look at maybe Tipperary or Galway or Waterford, or who would you be looking at?
I think, look at the performances this season, I would say Galway are still that bit above. Tipperary, they have shown potential with the likes of Karen Kennedy and Roisin Howard and Grace O'Brien in particular over the last few weeks. But when Cork played them in the league, Tip didn't score from play at all. They didn't score much from play in the championship either against Tip, and those 2 games were in the rag, Tip's home ground. So Cork have really put the beat down, stuff on Tipperary in those particular games against Kilkenny in Parky Heath or Super Valley Parky Heath again. Please don't.
Do you think they're in the bushes or something, man?
Anyway,
oh god,
it's
that's
Super
a Sunday night. Come on.
it's a
Super
Sunday
Valley.
night. I think we'll be okay.
It's a Super Valley Park Heath anyway. Kilkenny came down to play Cork and the Camogie, and Cork really brushed them aside, in particular in the second half. And Kilkenny are a team in transition. I know they had a good win over Dublin, but in Aoife Prendergast is outstanding. The likes of Miriam Conlon and Steffi Fitzgerald are as well. But to lose the players that you have, like Miriam Walsh, Julia Malone's not playing this year, Grace Walsh is not playing this year, obviously retired as well. Denise Gall's not playing. That's a huge amount of players to miss from a Kilkenny point of view. I still think Galway are the front runners, but then again, I don't know. Niamh Kilkenny and Sarah Durvan haven't been involved in any Galway panels this year, I've noticed, which is a huge loss to Galway. And they did lose by 11 points to Cork in the league final. But there is always, like, we seeded the All-Ireland final last year. Galway weren't in particularly great form, but they went into the All-Ireland final and really tested Cork all the way. And if that Katrina Mackey goal doesn't happen, I think that was a harsh goal from a Galway point of view to concede, considering Katrina did throw it over the line, obviously unintentionally, but she did throw it over the line.
Joe Sheridan.
But yeah, Galway, the point is Galway really, really tested Cork in that final, despite what form they were on. And I do think Galway will do that again this year. I think Galway are the front runners to try and test us. But let's be honest, at this present moment of time, right now, Cork look like real front runners to go on and win the All-Ireland. Not just because the other teams are kind of stagnating a bit. Cork just keep on going with their talent. They don't seem to be slowing down this present moment of time. And German Manley demands a lot out of these players as well. And they're just going to keep going.
Yeah, well, I said it kind of at the start that out of all 4 All-Irelands, if you want the slam dunk of who's going to retain their All-Ireland title, for me, it's the Cork Camogie team. Could be proven wrong when it's all said and done, but I'd be fairly confident about that one. Now, Liam, we'll move on to the All-Ireland Senior LGFA kicked off for 2025. Group 1's round 1 saw Galway and Tipperary go head-to-head in Tuam Stadium. Galway came out the right side of this result. Leanne Cohn with a goal, and Kate Slevin and Olivia Divley both provided 4 points each. It's a good start for Galway, who have had a fantastic year so far. Connacht champions, Division 2 champions. My opinion, they're one of the front runners for the All-Ireland. What did you make of them here?
Yeah, no real issues for them here, to be honest with you. Sort of unlike the Camogie, where you'd get more of a evenly balanced game, this really wasn't much of a, well, not much of a battle, but Galway really got through this game with real minimal fuss. Kate Slevin and DeVilly doing the damage in the full forward line with 4 points each. Leanne Cohen, I saw her goal earlier on today. It was a very, very nice finish. I think it was a little cheeky nutmeg as well, which is always a nice little thing to do on a match day. But yeah, no, they kicked on from that goal and they never really looked back, to be honest with you. It was a very, very good performance from them. Great to start off with a 9-point victory. And yeah, it's a nice settler into it as well after winning the Connacht Championship as well. And I suppose winning the Connacht Championship in, rather convincing fashion over Mayo as well. So, yeah, no, a real good performance from Galway. And but they'll obviously know that they will have tougher challenges ahead.
Yeah, no, they will. I think that was a banker that they had to win that one. And they got the job done. They did the task that was in front of them. You could say the same thing about this game for Kerry. Kerry, 13 points, Mayo 1-4. Matthew, I'll come to you for this one. Sheaf Roche led the way from the starting team with 4 points, while Danielle O'Leary also contributed 4 points off the bench. Not a great performance on the scoreboard from Mayo, only putting up 1-4 in the hour, but Kerry just too strong for them here.
Yeah, that's probably been the story of Mayo season, hasn't it? Like, relegated from Division 1, they haven't put up main scores other than Sinead Walsh. And to be fair, Sinead only scored, I think, 2 points in this one. Clodagh Keane got the goal for them, and they didn't score much at all. And this has been a problem for Mayo. But as you mentioned during the week, Séamus, about the Mayo LGFA team at the moment, the list of players is endless off the team at the moment, like Grace Kelly, Niamh Kelly, Shauna Howley, the Cafferkeys, and Eileen Gilroy, Lisa Cafferkey, Sinead Cafferkey. They're all gone. And that is a huge amount of players to miss from Mayo. And you do feel sorry for Liam McHale, because he's trying to build a new team out of this current Mayo youngster crop. But to be honest, I think the only real senior players in this Mayo team at this present moment in time are probably Sinead Walsh and Saoirse Lally. The rest of them are very, very inexperienced. And
he's going to be Sarah Rowe as well. Sarah Rowe's still over.
Sarah Rowe's, yeah. Still would be good enough for this team as well. So it is tough for Mayo. As for Kerry, look, it was just about getting over the line. If Cork to come next week as well, away from home, Sheaf Roche, Daniel O'Leary, as I mentioned, Niamh Carberry got 2 points as well. So they're all Ireland champions. They did what they had to do. It was a good win for them. They move on to the Cork game next week. And in regards to Cork in this group, I do think the main thing is to beat Mayo. If they don't beat Mayo, then bye-bye. But the main thing for Mayo is they have Cork at home. That is the decider to get second place in the group. That's a boost for Mayo, but considering the form of both sides is very, very similar, I'd say Cork are slightly in better form, but we'll have to see in the next few weeks. I do think Kerry will beat Cork next week, and it'll go down to the last game between Mayo and Cork.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that Kerry will want to avoid a potential situation of where they all have one win over each other and it gets messy, and Kerry could almost potentially be dumped out if something weird like that was to happen. So I think they'll focus on the task that's ahead of them. But I do agree, and I think there's a psychological impact as well when so many of your players go to Australia. And I just want to state as well, I would go if I was one of the players. I would go. I would, live that lifestyle over on that side of the world and go experience it while you're young and you have that opportunity. But when so many of them are gone and you're trying to build a team, you get the sense as well that any player that surges or any player that really, really impresses could be picked and taken away from you. So it's very, very difficult to build a team under those circumstances. But yeah, I think Mayo have been hit the hardest by it. And if they can get some of the players back the same way that Vicky Wall comes back and plays with Meath, the same way that Jennifer Dunn has come back and Sinead Goldrick has come back for Dublin, then Mayo could be a lot better, because the players that you named there, Eileen Gilroy, the Cafferkeys, Sarah Rowe, like not only would Grace Kelly as well, not only would they start, they'd walk back in. Like they are and have been Mayo's best players over the last 10 years. So for sure they would walk back in. They'd make the team so much better. And I hope that they do feature in the championship again over the next couple of years, hopefully this season. Now, speaking of players who have gone down under that made a big impact on the weekend's action, this game was picked to be a real crunch game. It certainly turned out to be that way. And Meath and Armagh end up evening the spoils. Liam, I'll come to you for this one. Meath 3-8, Armagh 2-11. Armagh pulled back at the end at the death by Meath, who share the spoils. I think neither of them will be happy with this result when it's all said and done.
Yeah, I'm sort of surprised by this result. Obviously, I know I had to leave your podcast the other night early, Matthew, but if I had stayed on it, I would have been predicting Armagh to win this game. So I was kind of pleasantly surprised to see that Meath got the draw. And nothing against Meath. I still think they're a good team, but just the way that the trajectory that Armagh are on at the moment and how very well they won the Ulster Championship, I anticipated this to be an Armagh victory. But listen, no, great credit has to go to Meath, to fight back towards the end like the way they did, and especially when you take into consideration how they lost the Leinster final as well. They certainly would have walked out of Croke Park that day in the defeat to Dublin, thinking that we probably let this one slip, to be honest, with with the lead that they had. They let it slip to a degree that they would not have been happy with. And I actually probably thought this game still maybe was a bit too soon for them. But no, look, they fought till the bitter end and came up with the goods towards the end with Shauna Ennis's goal and, I mean, the legend herself, Vicky Wall, to salvage a draw. I mean, if you ever want to build a statue for her, then, I think she'd be warranted one, to be honest, at this stage. But yeah, no, Armagh still had some good performers as well. Niamh Reel kicked 5 points for Armagh. Kelly Mahon and Eva McCoy impressed with 1-2 and 1-1 each. Vicky Wall and Emma Duggan as well, absolute superb footballer. They were the leading scorers for Meath as well. Yeah, it was a very entertaining beginning to the championship as well, full of high drama. I suppose, look, when you take into consideration how Meath got the draw, then they'll probably be delighted to get away with something. Armagh definitely will not be happy with this, especially with them having such aspirations to win the All-Ireland this year. But I suppose at the end of the day, for a game like this, I think you just got to look and say, look, we got out of here with a draw. We didn't lose the game, and it was away from home as well. Never easy to go to that. It's never easy to go to Meath, let's be honest. So I suppose they'll take it from, yes, we probably should have seen it out, but let's also take the draw and move on.
Yeah, I mean, it shows how good Armagh, also shows how good Meath are, and it was great to see Shauna Ennis returning and getting that goal. Vicky Wall has proved absolutely as vital as we all know she is to Meath when she returned to the team. She had a big impact on their season. For both sides, I don't think either one will be happy, but they'll take a point out of that game because obviously that could have very easily been a defeat for both of them. Now, Matthew, the final game took place today, and you picked this game. So you picked this game as being the highlight of the weekend. Waterford against Dublin in Dungarvan, and it finishes 1-13 apiece. Now, this game, Waterford will be kicking themselves. With the last kick of the game, Kate Sullivan slots over an equaliser for Dublin, and they salvage a draw out of what looked like it was going to be a guaranteed defeat.
Yeah, it was, again, Waterford had an outstanding performance. They should have beaten Kerry not once, not twice, but thrice this season. And then they came up against Dublin and probably should have beat them as well. But genuinely, Waterford are so close. Like, the amount of good players that they have this season, the job that Tomas back at Sierra is doing with this team as well is absolutely incredible. And yeah, they should have beaten Dublin. They really should have. And this is a Dublin team that aren't going particularly bad at all. They won the Leinster Championship, deservedly so, against Meath. And it just shows more than anything that Waterford are serious All-Ireland contenders. Like, they've tested Kerry, they've tested Dublin, they beat Cork comprehensively as well. They are a very good side. Obviously, Brie McMahon with 4 points, Emma Murray with 3, Chloe Finn with 3. Amazingly scored. We all said Laura McGregor scored 1-2, but having looked at clips, I think that was a Sinead Goldrick OG. Yeah, I don't know what went on there between Sinead Goldrick and Abby Shields, but look, that was. It was a poor moment for them for their point of view. But look, Dublin did bounce back. Hannah Terrell showed her class once again, 1-5. Kate Sullivan not just scored the equalising point to level the game, but she also got 4 points for play and a very good performance by her. So look, Dublin deserve a lot of credit for coming back into the game when it looked like a sticky situation. They did that in a tough ground as well. Dungarvan, like I've heard from people that have gone down there, it is not an easy place to go down because every time you go down there, it's wind, it's rain, and Waterford choose their grounds very, very carefully. They make it into a fortress. I give them that. But yeah, look, Waterford will be kicking themselves not getting the win, but Dublin deserve a lot of credit for coming back into the game, especially after the situation that ensued with the Sinead Goldrick and Abby Shields mix-up. But yeah, good result for both sides, I would say, because Leitrim are in this group as well, and I think both sides should do enough to beat them.
Yeah, I would be fairly confident both sides will get the victory over Leitrim. Liam, your thoughts on that game? Myself and Matthew chose this game as the highlight of the round. Waterford, who were so close to beating Kerry in the Munster final, obviously hosting Dublin, and Dublin with the prestige of the All-Irelands that they've won over the last 10 years. Very, very difficult away day for Dublin down in Dungarvan. The mix-up between Goldrick and Shields leads to the Waterford goal. And with a minute left, we're 2 points behind. Hannah Tyrrell slots over that free. And then with the last kick of the game, Kate Sullivan equalises. There's no doubt Waterford will be kicking themselves that they didn't get over the line. Tomas McAteer has done incredible work there with them. He'll be kicking himself that they didn't get over the line. For Dublin, I'll take the draw, given where we were with a minute to go. But it really announces just how serious Waterford are as dark horses for the All-Ireland, because now in back-to-back matches, they've pushed Kerry and Dublin all the way, and in my opinion, should have won both games.
Yeah, like, I mean, when you look at the result in the Munster final, losing by 2 points, and to now draw this game, it's got to be absolutely heart-wrenching. You know, it's like they're proving that they can compete at this level and they can go up against the absolute best. And I'm sure if they were thrown against Galway or Armagh in the morning, or obviously Meath to an extent as well, that they'd probably win those games as well, or they would absolutely put up a great fight. But I think at this stage, if you're Waterford, you want to not be getting moral victories, but you want to be getting actual victories, you know, getting yourself over the line and proving that you can absolutely win these games. Look, Dublin, I'd say, will just be absolutely relieved tonight that they've got away with something. They're probably wondering how they got away with something to a degree, to be honest with you. And that's nothing against Dublin, because they are a terrific team and they have been over the last number of years. But just the context of even how they played against Waterford, I think Waterford will be desperately upset not to win that game, especially when you look at some of their performers as well. Like Emma Murray had a very good game. Breed McMahon had a very good game. Chloe Fennell scored, I believe, 3 points this year, or 2 or 3 points. I think it was 3 points. But like, yeah, no, it's a real tough one to take, especially against a top side like Dublin, especially when they have home advantage as well. It's really got to sting. But a big victory is coming from them. You know, I saw them the 1 or 2 times last year, especially. I remember the game against Donegal in particular, and I was so impressed with them. And I think like they will get a big victory at some stage. And you know what? It might not even be this year. It could be next year. We could have to wait till next year till they do it. But they are a coming team. And like, if there is anybody that's going to stop Kerry and Munster, it's Waterford. And if there's another team that's going to compete in the All-Ireland series now to stop the likes of Kerry, an Armagh, a Dublin, a Galway, it's Waterford.
Yeah, I agree. I think they're absolutely heading in the right direction, no doubt about it. And results like this, like drawing with Dublin and nearly beating Kerry, has announced them as serious contenders. We'll move then the final code, men's Gaelic football, and we had the Tailteann Cup preliminary quarterfinals. I'll do the same thing. You get one game each, lads. Lucky dip. Liam, take a wild guess which game I've assigned to you. Matthew, I'll go to this one first. Westmeath 326, Laois 115 at Cusack Park. We anticipated that this game was going to be a tight affair. We thought that this one was going to be close. It really was anything but. Westmeath, absolutely superb performances. They've showcased the level that they're capable of getting to throughout the Division 2 campaign and some of the performances there. But you look at some of their key scorers here. Luke Loughlin provided 1-2. Stephen Smith provided 2 points. Ronan Wallace with 1-5. Sam McCartan with 8 points. Unbelievable performances. But when you look at it here, the spread of scorers here is really the main thing that's impressive for Westmeath. They all chipped in, really.
Yeah, it was a comprehensive win in TG Cusack Park, you have to say, from a Westmeath point of view. Sam McCartan, 8 points, superb from wing back. And between number 7 and number 6 to get 113 from play. Yeah. That's unreal. But I have seen Westmeath obviously in Páirc Uí Chaoimh against Cork, where they drove us to only a point victory, and McCartan was really, really good that night, as was his brother Danny at wing forward. Ronan Wallace, absolutely superb that night, and scored a goal in Super Valley Páirc Uí Chaoimh, but scored a goal in this one too, absolutely outstanding. And Luke Loughlin, a lot of people would have probably seen Westmeath stats and would have said they're very dependent on Luke Loughlin. He scores 117 per game. He scored 2 goals and 33 points or something in the Tailteann Cup so far. But in this game, there was other players stepping up. Matthew Whitaker as well, who I've been a real fan of this year, scoring 1-1 from play. Absolutely outstanding from Westmeath point of view. For Laois, look, it's a disappointing end of the year considering they didn't do much in Division 3. They got 5th or 6th place. And then to go out in the Tailteann Cup the way they did the prelim quarterfinal, I think the main result for them wasn't this game because Westmeath are a serious team and they're one of the favourites to win this. I think the main game which kind of derailed them a small bit was the game against Wicklow in the group stage. They probably should have won that game. In all honesty, if they won that game like they should have, they would have finished in the top 2 with Offaly as well than that. So, look, Laois will have a lot of regrets. There's no doubt about it over that particular aspect of it. But in terms of this game, Westmeath are serious contenders for this competition. And yeah, they have very good players on form. They aren't over-reliant on one player, which is the most important thing about them. And Dermot McCabe seems to be tune out of them after a difficult start to the year, losing games.
Yeah, I still think like even though they were having a difficult start in terms of results, their performances were superb. And you can see that it's basically like if you're trying to do maths, it's a good metaphor. If you're trying to do maths and you have the sum down, like you know how to work it out, that is more, that's more positive for the future rather than if you were just guessing the correct answer. Like if Westmeath were pulling out wins, but you knew that they weren't playing well, you know that that's not going to last. But the performances were really good. Therefore, you know that it's only a matter of time if they keep playing like this before the wins start rolling in. Christopher Conlon here, new to the channel. Chris, good to have you. Says, I think Tip will beat Galway. That one will be really, really interesting because I do think Galway have a good record against Tip, but I would favour Tip as of right now. Liam, I'll come to you for this one. Offaly 225, New York 112 in O'Connor Park. This is always going to be a tricky game because you're expected to win and you're not really going to get a lot of praise if you do. But if you let New York get the run on you, it can get very difficult very, very quickly. But obviously the highlights here, Dylan Hyland hit 112 by himself. Absolutely incredible display from him. And Offaly, full value for this win. Got the job done, did what was expected.
Yeah, it felt a bit nerve-wracking at the start just because of the defeat we had to London last year. This is another one of those games where you're thinking, like, we can't let it, after what happened last year, we just could not let a game like this happen the way it did again, to be honest with you. So it was just important to try and just get this game put to bed straight away or as quickly as possible. And early on, it felt a bit stale, to be honest with you. Even there wasn't a huge crowd in at the game because, like you said, it's a game that you would expect Offaly to win relatively comfortably. And like I said there, Dylan Hyland scored 112. He was sort of the catapult. He was the one who kind of started really showing a good sign of life in the game. He was the one who was making good movements off the ball, taking shots outside the arc, and just being an ever-presence in the forward lines, So that was a real positive. He's hitting real good form this year. He's been fantastic for us this year. And to hit 112 is, against any opposition in intercounty football, is a terrific feat. I don't think he meant his goal at all because he tried to fist it over the bar, came back to him off the post, and then he slotted it into the net. He'll probably tell you that he meant it, but I don't think he did at all. But look, yeah, we reduced New York to just 1 point from play by halftime, which is still, regardless of the opposition, it's a good thing from our perspective. And yeah, look, Rory McNamee was introduced. He got the second goal. It was pretty much game, set, and match after that. New York put up a bit of a fight then once we sort of took a few lads off and introduced new fellas to give them a bit of game time. And Bobby Regan's goal especially was an absolute cracker of a finish as well. And he finished with 1-3 and he really, really impressed me. And there was a few other players as well that, looked like they were able to actually play at this level if they were given more chances or playing at this level the whole time. But look, relatively comfortable enough. I was fortunate enough to be able to speak to both Declan Kelly and Mickey Hart after the game. And as they said, they got their real lesson in the championship from the defeat to Meath more than anything, more than the defeat to Laois, because it just showed you could be 10 points up at half time. But in the new rules with football, it could go away just like that. So, yeah, but they were happy to just get over the line. They're happy that they're in the hat now for the draw tomorrow morning. Obviously, the only thing we can't play is Wicklow. I would love another crack at Kildare because we bet them twice this year. So why not go for a hat trick and burst their bubble from winning the hurling today? But yeah, no, whoever we get, we just got to take it in our stride. And Yeah, look, we got Cormac Egan back playing football yesterday as well, which was a huge positive. Keith O'Neill played. Killian Burke only turned 19 yesterday, is doing his leaving cert at the moment, but he was excellent. Again, scored 2 great points, was an ever-presence in winning high ball and everything like that. So, yeah, look, it's a good win. We move on to the next round. Tougher tests ahead, but yeah, just delighted to get over the line.
Yeah, no, that was always going to be a difficult game. I like the Mickey Hart, Declan Kelly, just drop it in. Very, very nice. Gavin Riley here says, got to admire Mick McDonagh. You can see him in the background behind the goals in nearly every Offaly game.
I don't think he was in Roscommon today. I didn't see him. I'll be honest with you. I don't know if he was I don't think he was at the Mayo game today. I could be wrong, but I'll be honest with you, Dr. Hyde Park reminds me of West Ham United's London Stadium. You feel so far back from the pitch, to be honest with you, up in the stand. So it was kind of hard at times to see who was who, or I couldn't see McDonagh. Maybe he was there, but yeah, no, he's at every game. He was the first on the pitch when we bet Antrim. He was the first on the pitch when we won the minor Leinster Championship a couple of weeks ago. So he's appeared in New York so many times with that jersey. He has a Cormac Lahi jersey, he's a Walsh Island jersey, Tullamore jersey, Forban jersey. He has every jersey in the county, I think. He's an absolute hero in Offaly. He's an absolute legend.
Good stuff. Matthew, I will come to you then for this game. What a scoreline here put up by Wexford, 5-23 to Antrim's 2-21 in Wexford Park. I mean, this is a scoreline purely brought on by the new rules. I mean, this is absolutely proof of why the new rules have been just superb for the game. Sean Nolan with 2-3, Ben Brosnan with 1-2, Mark Rossiter with 1-1, Glenn Malone and Power Hughes provided 5 points between them from the half back line. Whereas Antrim, on the other hand, you have to give shouts to Dominic McInhill at 1-4, Ryan McQuillan with 5 points, Conor Han with 2 points from midfield. And then their other goal came from Patrick Finnegan off the bench. Really, really high scoring game, really high quality game. Wexford get over the line though and are into the Tailteann quarterfinals.
Yeah, and Wexford are probably a side that you would have said that if they took this competition seriously, they could revive football in the county again. And it look with the fruits of Wexford football at this present moment in time. And they now need only one more win and they're in Croke Park again. That'll be their third appearance in Croke Park, and the hurlers didn't make a single appearance in Croke Park this year. I don't think anybody would have actually said that at the start of the season from a Wexford point of view. But to be fair, Sean Nolan, 2-3, excellent performance. Ben Brosnan, he's still going. Incredible, really. What age is he now at this stage? He's absolutely great. I remember him playing in that game where Dublin got tested all the way in 2011. That was 14 years ago. 37 years of age.
He had the blonde. He had the bleach blonde in his hair that year.
Yeah,
I remember.
Paolo Nedved.
Pavel Nedved. That was the chop. It was proper Pavel Nedved.
Himself, obviously PJ Banville that year. Anthony Masterson, that was something. But Wexford, Kieran Ling, Matty Ford, I know was before that time, but he was superb as well.
Matty Ford only retired in 2010, and I fully believe he will. I fully believe if he was there that year, I think they would have beat us. I still, to this day, think Ford could have provided that X factor, that difference, because it was a really close game.
But it probably just emphasises the importance of having a good Wexford football team, because they are going really, really well at this present moment in time. Obviously, Mark Rossiter scoring 1-1 as well. Robbie Brooks got the other goal. And out of the two goalkeepers, actually, Dara Brooks for Wexford got 6 points. Michael Byrne for Antrim got 7. 13 points between two goalkeepers. Just the world we live in at this present. Yeah, the world we live in at this present moment in time. Obviously, Ryan McQuillan and Dominic McInhill, superb as well. And Antrim have scored high scores against Armagh. I remember in the Ulster Championship, they scored something ridiculous that day as well. And after that game, the BBC analyst actually said about the new rules, are we getting too much scores?
We love to see that. Defensive systems. Let's get more of it.
Bring back Kerry and Derry last year in the All-Ireland final. Shut up.
Bring back the Mayo County final where both teams only got 1 point from play in the entire hour.
Bring back the Clare final where to keep you uppies.
There was one. I swear there was one county final last year where there was a score from play in the first 10 minutes, and then there was the next and the only other score from play was in the last 10 minutes. So I remember I put this to you, Matthew. I remember being you could have literally seen the first score from play, flown to London, and seen the next score from play and not missed a beat. Like, so how people could sit there with a straight face and tell me that we didn't need to change things in the game is beyond me.
What epitomized the rules for me was when Mickey Hart was appointed Offaly manager last year. The first game he went to see was Road and Tullamore, which would be traditionally the two best sides in Offaly. And I was at another game and I checked it on Twitter, and it was 3-3 with 10 minutes to go. And it ended up 6-3. Road didn't score in the second half. If that doesn't tell you we need new rules, then I don't know what will.
Yeah, no, we needed them. And people saying maybe there's too many scores and all this. Look, we've seen enough to give it time. It's not going to be perfect in the first.
I was covering a Junior B game today, and the scoreline was actually, there was no 2-pointers. Obviously, it was a county pitch kind of. It was in the middle of nowhere and things like that. But the scoreline in that Junior B game was 5-11 to 10 points, and some good football was played, and there was a lot of shots taken. So, it does work. It does work, the new rules. And I don't know why people would complain over them. And those BBC analysts that the BBC presenter that actually asked that question, I'm like, are you not entertained? It's
are you not entertained is the best way to put it. That is the best way to put it. That's the quote of the year, Matthew. And Liam, you get the final game. Sligo 127, Carlow 219 at Tubbercurry. Noah Murphy provided 8 points. Alan McLaughlin provided 1-3. Shane Dignan provided 3 points. Alan Riley provided 4. David Quinn provided 2. And that's out of their forward line. You have to give a shout out to Patrick O'Connor, who got 4 points from midfield. Good win for Sligo against a tricky Carlow team who had nothing to lose. Obviously, after Shane Curran left, this year has been more or less, let's just get through into next season. But still, Carlow are a good team. And from their 219, you have to give a shout to players like Mikey Bambrick, who provided 2 points, Ross Dunphy with 4, Conor Crowley with 3 points from the inside forward line. And the 2 goals both came from a defender, Paddy McDonnell. So good performance by Carlow, but a good win by Sligo.
Yeah, and even seeing here on Score Bjorks, I didn't see the game or I wasn't keeping up with it too much today, but even with 20 minutes to go, the scoreline was 120 to 214. So it shows that Carlow were competitive in this game. And I think I'd be a small bit worried from a Sligo point of view. Look, it's a win. They've gotten through it, and they'll just be delighted to be into the quarterfinal draw tomorrow morning. But have they just been a bit stale this season? They've kind of coasted through the season, both in the league and the championship. I don't know. I just expected a lot more from them. I think the only game I've kind of looked at this year from them and I've thought, wow, they really probably impressed me was Mayo. And they lost. They still lost that game, but that was the only game where I kind of thought Sligo are a top class team here, or they have the potential to be a top class team. Like,
I think they do well as underdogs. I think they're one of those teams that
they do. Yeah, no, they do. And like even last weekend with Kildare, like they were, I think it was a 3-12 to 1-7 at half time they were losing, and then at one stage I think they got it back to a couple of points, and it wasn't that much of a defeat in the end. But I don't know. I still think there's more to come from this team, or at least I should expect more to come from this team. And look, maybe with the quarterfinal draw tomorrow, we'll see who they get. Obviously, I know they can't face Kildare, so that's out of the way. But you absolutely would fancy their chances against a Wicklow or Fermanagh, if they were to be drawn with them. So or
maybe even Limerick. Yeah,
absolutely. Now, given Limerick bet Westmeath last weekend in Portlaoise and bet them in real good fashion as well. It wasn't even just like a quick it was a steal or anything like that. At one stage you were 15 points to 10 up, and Westmeath were performing fairly poorly. So Limerick could pose a really tricky challenge. But look, I think there is more to come from this Sligo team. I don't think we've seen the best of them yet. But at the end of the day, look, they've got the job done. They move on to the next round. For Carlow, yeah, like you said, after the torrent few months they've had, I'd say they're probably just in a way relieved that the season's finished.
Yeah, no, I would agree. Now, before we wrap up the episode, I will give a big shout out to the All-Ireland Minor Football quarterfinals, which took place across this weekend. We had Kerry beating Cavan 14 points to 1-9, Tyrone beating Cork 121 to 112, Roscommon beating Louth 119 to 215, and today Mayo beat Offaly 313 to 4-7. So that is this episode finished. It's been a hell of an episode. Thank you so much to Liam White and to Matthew Hurley for jumping on for another episode, lads. It was an absolute pleasure. Big shout as well to Brian O'Riordan, to Sean O'Malley, Stockholm, Tim, Peter Griffin, Aces, Denise, Joseph Nash, A2, Porter, Gavin O'Reilly, Dara Daly, Rudders 38, and Christopher Conlon for throwing in their comments throughout the episode. You helped make that episode what it was. As you can tell, me and the lads are starting to get a bit delusional now because it's hit 1 hour 45 minutes. I'm going to wrap this episode up. We will be back next weekend, same time, same place. You know where to find us. Until then, goodbye from me. Have a great week. Agus Torah.